Welcome to the Printmaster QM46 operator video. Printmaster QM46 performs with versatility, speed, and productivity. Solid engineering, stable side frames, helical drive gears, and bearer-to-bearer pressure provide for high reliability in this format range. Short make-ready times are achieved with electronic controls, autoplate, central sheet size adjustments for feeder and delivery, as well as automatic blanket wash-up device. The range of use for Printmaster QM46 is very versatile. This operator video will give you many hints and suggestions on how to best benefit from all Printmaster QM46 features. Comments regarding maintenance of the press will help keep quality, availability, and service life of the Printmaster QM46 at a constantly high level. This video has been divided into 5 parts, which cover all press controls, make-ready and the production process, maintenance, press adjustments, and optional accessories. First of all, we would like to explain to you all operating elements in detail. The main switch is at the control box underneath the operation panel on the delivery side. The 0 position means that the press is switched off. The position 1 means that the press is in operation. The cylinders of the press can be turned manually with one of the 2 crank handles. Open the guard on the operator's side and put the crank handle on the supporting device. Now you can turn the cylinders manually in both directions. The emergency stop is a red button on a yellow background. There is one on the main control panel and one on the auxiliary control panel at the second printing unit. The press stops immediately when you push the emergency stop button. The red switch will lock by itself. Turning the switch to the right will unlock it. All major functions of the press can be controlled at the main control panel. To activate the safety function, you have to push the middle button on the left twice very quickly. The LED will then glow. Pushing the upper button will move the cylinders forward. Pushing the lower button will move the cylinders backward. The auxiliary control panel at Printing Unit 2 has the same buttons. The cylinders will only move inch by inch if one of the press guards is open. There is also an unlimited crawl speed mode if all guards are closed. Please be careful not to open 2 guards at the same time. If you do that, the press will not move at all. After closing one of the guards, you can continue your work. The following guards of a Printmaster QM46 can be moved. You can open the guards at the inking unit, the dampening unit, as well as the one above the plate cylinder of Printing Unit 1. There are also 3 movable guards at Printing Unit 2. The main guard of Printing Unit 1 can be opened as well. If the press is standing still and you push the green button for production run twice very quickly, the pre-selected production program will start automatically. Pushing this button once during production run will interrupt the printing process. Pushing it again will start the production run again. The button in the middle starts and stops the waste sheet counter. If the LED is lit, the number of waste sheets is shown, but they are not counted for the production run. When deactivating this function, the pre-selected run will be processed. The red button will interrupt the production program and the press stops. Let's now take a look at the pre-selection buttons and their possible adjustments. When pushing the button for pre-dampening, you can set the number of cylinder rotations to pre-dampen the printing plate. You can choose any number between 0 and 9 with the plus-minus button. The entered value will be saved automatically. This pre-selecting option sets the number of cylinder rotations for pre-inking the printing plate via the inking rollers. Please enter any required number between 0 and 9 with the plus-minus button. With this button, you can adjust the pre-inking of the blanket. For a multicolor print on a two-color press, this value should be 0 or 1 to prevent ink migration of the lighter color when printing two colors via one blanket. With this function, you can adjust the number of cylinder rotations for cleaning the blanket. The required value between 0 and 20 can be set via the plus-minus button. The selected value will be saved automatically. When finishing the production run, the printing plate will be ejected automatically if this function has been activated. It is especially useful for short runs with frequent plate changes. The LED will glow if this function has been selected. Here you can call up and set specific special functions. On the inside of the guard, you will find a chart showing all the special functions. Special Function 16 activates the operator guidance. The LEDs of the buttons for the possible steps will flash if the operator guidance has been turned on. These are the buttons for all direct settings. They all immediately start a press function. If you push the production button twice very quickly, the press will start at the pre-selected speed. Paper travel will start without printing if you also turn on suction and blast air. For adjusting jobs during press standstill, you can turn on blast air. If you push this button twice very quickly, you will start the automatic blanket wash-up process. The press will run the pre-selected wash-up and drying rotations. If the press is already in production, this button needs to be pushed once to start the automatic wash-up procedure. The Auto Plate button activates plate insertion and ejection. If there is still a plate on the plate cylinder, it will be ejected first, and the cylinder will move into the position for plate insertion. Position the new plate, push the button twice, and the plate will be inserted automatically. This function starts the positioning run for the sheets. The length of the sheet is measured and the double sheet detector can be set. Push the button with the ink fountain symbol to have the ink ductor take over ink from the ink fountain roller during the press run. When pressing the button with the arrows in the lower right corner, the plate cylinder will move to the correct position for diagonal adjustment of the printing plate. The printing plate remains clamped but is released. The plate can now be adjusted diagonally with the socket wrench. When pushing this button, you can select the required printing unit. If the upper LED glows, you have selected printing unit 2, and if the lower LED glows, you have activated printing unit 1. Both printing units are activated if both LEDs glow. The numeric display is used for entering numbers, as for example, run length or numeric codes for special programs. The entered numbers can be deleted by pressing the lower button on the right. You need this function for premature stopping of the production. The display of the remaining run length is set to 0, and the press stops the production run. The press speed is shown in the upper left corner of the information display. In the lower right corner, you can see the pre-selected run length, and in the upper right corner, the number of sheets still to be printed is counted backward. You can set the production speed via the plus-minus button. The maximum speed is 10,000 sheets per hour. If any error occurs, the symbols in the upper information display will flash. If one of the press functions is not working and this display flashes, you should immediately call for service. The error detecting system, Special Function 56, is usually all you need to find and even fix the problem over the telephone. Over here you see the symbol for a general malfunction. It will flash, for example, if one of the guards is open. This area will glow if an error occurred during plate change or if there is no plate on the plate cylinder. If there is a malfunction on one of the peripherals, it will be shown here. This display will glow if the delivery pile is full and needs to be changed. This function shows that there is a paper jam in the delivery. And this symbol indicates that there is a paper jam in the feeder. Double sheets, early or late arriving sheets, or missing sheets are registered and shown here. This symbol will glow if the feeder pile is adjusted too high or too low. Now we would like to explain to you the functionality of the feeder and the adjustments of paper travel in greater detail. The maximum sheet size is 46 by 34 centimeters or 18 1/8 by 13 1/2 inches. If you engage the crank handle at the feeder, you can move the pile board up and down slowly. This gearbox can also be switched over to fast movement of the pile board. Lift up the feeder frame and position one sheet of the stock in the center of the feed board. The hand wheel simultaneously sets the lateral sheet stops in the feeder and the delivery. The lateral pile guides just barely touch the sheet edges. When processing smaller paper sizes, each suction device outside the sheet format has to be switched off. This is done by moving up the sleeves of the respective suction device. To switch a suction device back on, all you have to do is push the sleeve back down. The blast air has to be adjusted via this knob so that only the top sheet will be separated from the pile. The forwarding rollers must be adapted to the width of the sheet. Please move the suction bar to a position where the forwarding rollers can be moved. The Tommy bar screw has to be opened for this adjustment. Position the forwarding rollers symmetrically to the sheet. The distance between the forwarding rollers should be approximately 2/3 of the format width. Please make sure that the forwarding rollers lock into their proper position. If the pressure of the forwarding rollers is not equal, it can be adjusted via the upper knurled head screw. The stock is aligned either to the operator's side or to the drive side via a pull bar equipped with rubber rings. Slight differences in the stock can be leveled out with this pull bar. Plate springs are installed on the lateral limitation blades in order to improve sheet travel. please slide on the plate springs on this side of the lateral sheet guide pieces from where the sheet should be pulled away. You can now change the direction of pulling with the operator tool. In this example, we are changing the direction of pulling to the drive side. The stock should be loosened and aligned to provide for optimal sheet travel. You can now pile the paper in the feeder. Then you turn the pile up to the first mark and disengage the crank handle. Now you turn the knob for the pile height counterclockwise to the lowest working height. Once you start the press, the pile transportation will also start automatically. The upper edge of the pile has to be adjusted according to the stock thickness. For thin stock, it has to be set to the lower mark, and for thick stock, it needs to be set to the thick mark on the scale. You will find more helpful hints in the operating manual or in our leaflet, Hints for the Feeder. For reliable separation of the sheets, the sheet separator fingers at the front edge of the sheet need to be adjusted to different stock. For thick stock, the separator fingers should not touch the front edge of the pile. And for thin stock, the separators should reach into the paper pile to provide for proper sheet separation. Move the lateral stops to the pile edge. Do not adjust them too tightly to prevent the paper from curling up. But do not move them too far away either, because they should still touch the pile. The stop should slightly touch the pile with the spring. The pile frame holds the rear sheet stops and the rear edge blowers. The rear stop is set to the rear sheet edge by loosening the Tommy bar screw. Two blowers will loosen up the rear pile edge. The blowers can be moved and adjusted to the format size via the Tommy bar screws. At the operation panel, you now turn on the compressor for blast and suction air. Adjust the blast air via the control knob so the top sheet lies against the front sheet separator fingers. The lateral amount of blast air is adjusted via the right turning knob. The knob next to it controls the amount of rear blast air. By turning the lateral and rear knurled head screw, you adjust the blast air so that about 10 sheets are loosened up and lie on an air cushion. The lateral blowing direction can be controlled as well. The correct pile positioning has been set. Press the button for double sheet positioning run twice. The top sheet travels into the press and the sheet length is measured automatically. The press stops, and now the double sheet detector can be set. Depending on the stock thickness, the toggle switch has to be adjusted to thick or thin paper. Turn the control knob all the way to the left until the control lamp lights up. Then you turn the knob to the right until the light goes out. Add 5 graduation marks for paper tolerances. Press the button for double sheet positioning run twice again, and the sheet will be transported to the delivery. With the crank handle, you can now set the rear sheet stop of the delivery to the format size. Please remember that the rear stop may have to be removed for small paper sizes. You can turn the lateral sheet joggers on the drive side on and off. Please push the sheet jogger against the side frame until it hits the stop and pull the little spring. The guide pulleys are on the chain sprocket shaft and provide for trouble-free transportation of the printed sheets to the delivery. If possible, the guide pulley should always be positioned in the image-free area of the sheet. They can be removed very easily. The groove in the shaft should point toward the delivery. Pull the spring clip and the guide pulleys can be easily removed from the press. The ink repellent foil on the pulleys should be replaced from time to time. Put the guide pulleys back in and swing back the spring clip. The opening time of the chain grippers has to be adapted to the printed stock to achieve safe sheet laydown in the delivery. The opening time is too early in this case, which would cause scratching of freshly printed sheets. Reset the opening time via the control knob. The gripper opening time depends on stock and production speed. The front sheet joggers can be turned off and on with the lower turning knob. There are 2 fans installed in the delivery to provide for optimal delivery of the printed sheets of all stocks. Of the fans can be set separately. It may be necessary to readjust the sheet arrival when processing very thin or thick stock. One sign for readjustment may be frequent press stops because of early or late arriving sheets. The time of sheet arrival is set via this turning knob. The paper run should be checked again after having finished all adjustments. On Printmaster QM46, you can process metal plates and polyester foils as well as paper-based printing foils with a thickness of 0.1 up to 0.2 millimeters or 0.004 up to 0.008 inches. Please note that automatic plate ejection only works for plates of 505 millimeters or 19 7/8 inches of length. For punching a plate, you have to set the lateral stops all the way to the sides. Move the plate to the front stop. Exact angles can be checked with the punch template. The plate is centered by the lateral stops. Hold the plate tight and push the lever down for punching. You can also use this punch for film and assembly foils. This punching system can be used for pre-press and press and ensures correct alignment of the image. It provides for easy and high-quality workflow processes. The autoplate function activates automatic ejection and insertion of the printing plate. Ejection will be activated if there is still a plate on the plate cylinder. The position of the plate feed table defines the printing unit in which a plate will be changed. Move the feed table toward the delivery for changing the plate in printing unit 2. Now you just have to push the button for plate change twice quickly and the plate cylinder will move to the plate clamping position. Insert the plate into the clamping bar. Please make sure that the plate is exactly aligned at the front register pins. Now you push the auto plate button again twice and the plate will be inserted. Swing the feed table to the other side and put the plate for printing unit 2 in the register pins. this plate has to face down. Pressing the Auto Plate button will insert the plate in Printing Unit 2. You will find further information in our leaflet, Hints for Autoplate, and in the operating manual. Changing polyester plates is done the same way. The surface of the polyester plate should still be wet for trouble-free plate ejection. After a press standstill, the plate should be pre-dampened by a special function 01. The plate can also be removed manually if an autoplate error occurs. Move the cylinder to the correct position to reach the rear plate edge. The rear plate clamping bar can be opened against the spring pressure with the operator tool. Hold on to the plate and move the cylinder backward to the front plate edge. If the small LED of the Auto Plate button flashes fast, the front clamping bar will open when pushing the button again, and the plate can be removed. If you need to remove the plate from Printing Unit 2 manually, you have to remove the roller package first. As shown in our previous example, the plate can also be removed from Printing Unit 2. Please make sure that the ball end of the rollers faces the drive side. Before filling in the ink, you have to install the ink fountain side plates on the operator and the drive side. Lift up the ink fountain and put on the lock. The knurled head screws have to be tightened equally on both sides by hand. Now you can fill in the ink with a plastic ink slice. The ink can be spread in the ink fountain by moving the lever of the ink fountain roller. When choosing the ink sequence, it's essential that the lighter color is in Printing Unit 1 and the darker color in Printing Unit 2. This will reduce the possibility of ink migration to a minimum. The inks have to be exactly tuned into each other when printing via one common blanket. The ink in the first unit always has to have a higher tack. If that is not the case, it is always possible to add printing oil in Printing Unit 2 to reduce ink tack and viscosity to the required level. The added amount has to be measured very carefully. Do not use too much printing oil. If one of the inking units is not needed for a job, you should apply resin-free oil on the inking rollers in order to protect their surface. After having prepared both ink fountains, you can now prepare the dampening solution. The dampening solution additive depends on the type of printing plate. There is a scale on the dampening solution container which will help you make the correct mixture. On the container, you will find the manufacturer's information on the amount of dampening solution that has to be added to achieve a pH value of 4.8 up to 5.5. Now you can fill up the dampening solution container with tap water. Please check the pH value with diagram paper. For installing the dampening solution pan, you have to lift up the dampening roller. The pan is guided by lateral rails. The value of the dampening solution container is put in the opening of the dampening unit guard. The amount of dampening solution is set via a turning knob. Depending on the type of plate or during long production hours, it may be necessary to readjust the amount of dampening solution. The press has to be in production mode when starting up inking. Turn the lever all the way up and start setting an equal inking profile. The ink fountain is equipped with a laser slit ink knife, which is divided into 15 ink zones. Precise inking that is free of side effects can be set via the adjusting levers. Turn on the ink ductor to start the ink flow. It is better to start with only a little bit of ink. Turn the ink ductor off again. Now you can set the ink zones to the amount of ink required for the printing image. The ink zones have to be closed in areas where no ink is needed. When setting up a new job, it is recommended to start with high ink fountain roller strokes and only small openings of the ink zones. You will quickly achieve an ink-water balance if you pre-ink the dampening unit. The pressure between blanket and impression cylinder has to be adapted to the different stock. This pressure is set with the socket wrench according to the stock thickness. The range of adjustment has been predefined from 0.04 up to 0.3 millimeters or 0.0016 up to 0.012 inches. For pre-selecting the run length, you have to press the delete button. Please remember that the press can only be started if the run length has been defined. You have loaded the feeder, mounted the plates, prepared the inking and dampening units, and entered the run length. Turn on the waste sheet counter and start printing the first test sheets with the green button for production run. First of all, you should check the correct position of the printing form. It is best to use a ruler to measure the sheet. The lateral register is adjusted at the feeder. By turning the adjusting wheel during the machine run, the sheet can be adjusted sideways toward the printing image by plus or minus 2.5 millimeters or 0.1 inch. The circumferential register is set via a turning knob at the delivery. Now you can print the second test sheet and check your corrections. Please take a very close look at the register. Via the upper turning knob, the second printing unit can be set laterally toward printing unit 1 by plus minus 2 millimeters or 0.008 inches. The second printing unit can also be adjusted circumferentially by plus minus 2 millimeters or 0.008 inches. You only have to push the lower adjusting knob. If the diagonal position of the printing image is not correct, which means that the front part of the sheet is aligned correctly but the back is not, it can be adjusted by a diagonal register adjustment. Just press the button for diagonal register adjustment and the plate cylinder will move into the correct position. Open the top guard. You can now adjust the plate diagonally with the operator tool. Close the guard again and clean the blanket. After printing a few sheets, you should check the register again. The position as well as the register of the printing form are now exactly aligned. Slight inking adjustments can also be done now. It's very helpful to also check the register when processing multicolor jobs. After having adjusted the image, you should print about 20 sheets. Reload these 20 sheets in the feeder. Run them through the press again without changing any adjustments. The image of the middle 16 sheets should match exactly. This shows that you have aligned good sheet-to-sheet register. If the image has shifted, it is best to check all feeder adjustments again. They should not be changed during the production run, however. It is best to check the printed sheets again after having finished Make Ready. The last ink adjustments can be done now. Turn on the powder spray device to prevent ink layoff. And start the production run with the green button. After about 5 startup sheets, you turn off the waste sheet counter and the production run begins. While the whole run is produced, you should compare the inking again with your OK sheet. The register should also be checked again from time to time. The press will stop automatically as soon as the pre-selected run length has been produced. Clean the blanket and lower the delivery pile. For cleaning the inking unit, you have to install the wash-up blade. In order to clean inking and dampening unit together, you have to remove the dampening solution container and the dampening solution pan. Push down the dampening roller to connect inking and dampening unit. Dampening solution container and dampening solution pan also have to be removed from printing unit 2. Insert the thinner wash-up blade in printing unit 2. In order to connect the inking and dampening unit, you have to turn the lever at the dampening unit up. Remove the ink from the ink fountain. Swing off the ink fountain and remove the side plates for cleaning. Now, carefully spray some wash-up solution on the rollers. You will set the wash-up blade to the inking unit by pulling the lever. Please regularly apply wash-up solution until the rollers are clean. Switch off the wash-up blade and stop the press. Ink residues at the fountain can be wiped off with a cloth. Swing off the ink fountain roller and bring the fountain back into position. The wash-up blade should be removed every day and the rubber strip should be cleaned. Afterward, the impression cylinder needs to be cleaned with a cloth drenched in wash-up solution. Circumferential, lateral, and diagonal register adjustments should be turned back into their zero position. You now have the press all prepared for the next job. Regular maintenance is essential in order to ensure long press life and high availability of the press, as well as consistently high print quality. The following aspects are very important. The sheet monitoring device is located in front of the forwarding roller shaft. The clamp fixing has to be loosened in order to clean the sensor. The upper part of the casing can now be removed from the holder. The sensor, as well as the light barrier, should be cleaned regularly with a dry cloth. The light barrier in the lower part of the casing can be cleaned with a cotton swab or compressed air. There is a little recess in the guide plate. Every 3 months, you should apply some oil there in order to also grease the gears of the sheet arrival control. The forwarding rollers should be loosened for cleaning. Clean their surface regularly to remove paper dust and possible ink residue. Drench a cleaning rag in wash-up solution. Open the upper guard. The bearers of plate and blanket cylinders should be cleaned every day. For cleaning the plate cylinder of printing unit 2, the complete set of rollers has to be removed. Please clean the pressure rollers as well if required. Reinstall the rollers. There are 2 lateral sealings in the first dampening unit. These should be removed regularly for cleaning. Please close the upper guard again. For cleaning the blanket wash-up device, the guard has to be opened and the whole device needs to be removed from the press. To achieve best wash-up results, the felt should be replaced from time to time. Push in the pins on both sides and you can separate the wash-up pan from the wash-up roller. Cleaning the wash-up pan is very easy. Remove the metering roller from the pan and take out the wash-up felt. Now the support rail can be removed as well. pan can be cleaned with a brush and some wash-up solution. Reinstall the support rail. And now you can put in the new felt. Install the metering roller. Now you put the pan and the wash-up roller back together and put the whole device back into the press. The whole device can be adjusted with the shown screws. Refill the wash-up device with wash-up solution up to the mark. The complete device can be locked with one small rotation. Close the guard again. The compressor is underneath the feeder and is accessible after removing the guard. The operating pressure has been preset at the factory so that the pointer of the manometer is in the green area of the scale. When loosening the screw at the glass bulb, you can drain the condensation water. Please tighten the screw again. The air filter of the pneumatic compressor should also be checked from time to time. Pull out the filter cartridge and blow it clean. If it gets dirty very fast, it has to be replaced every 6 months. Please also check the air filter of the pressure vacuum pump regularly. Just loosen the screws and you can remove the filter cartridges. Using compressed air is best for cleaning the filters. The filter cartridges should be replaced if they're too dirty. Put the filters back in. There are 7 grease nipples underneath the feeder. Every month, the supplied grease gun applies 1/4 of a stroke to the central lubrication. During lubrication, the press has to be in operation at minimum speed. Please close the guard again. Lubricant spray has to be applied to the pile transportation chain once a month. Maintenance of the delivery chains is just as important. It's very easy to remove the dirt with a brush. Please remember to keep the chains free of powder and well greased. Also apply lubricant spray to the delivery chains once a month. The gears of the cylinders should be greased every 3 months. Oil is carefully applied to the bearings of the gripper operating shaft every 3 months. The nipple on the impression cylinder has to be greased every 6 months. Open the top guard to grease the bearers of the cylinders. It's best to apply the grease with a brush. Close the guard again. Correct press settings and adjustments ensure long-lasting print quality. For changing the blanket, you have to slowly inch the press forward to the position where blanket clamp shafts point to the feeder. Open the guard. Push the forwarding rollers to the sides to get more room to work. Lower the feeder frame. Turn the hexagon head screw until the pinch rails are almost vertical to the cylinder gap. Press the rear blanket pinch rail against the spring toward the operator side and pull it out of the clamp shaft. Hold on to the blanket and the underlay sheet and inch the press backward until you reach the front clamping bar. Push the front clamping bar against the spring and remove the blanket and the underlay sheet. Now you can clean the blanket cylinder. Only use calibrated underlay sheets of 340 by 473 millimeters or 13 3/8 by 18 1/2 inches. Measure the tension with the blanket cylinder gauge. The new blanket and the underlay sheet should come up to about the same height as the bearers. The undercut of the blanket cylinder is 2.3 millimeters or 0.091 inches. The pressure between printing plate and blanket should be between 0.12 millimeters or 0.005 inches and a maximum of 0.15 millimeters or 0.006 inches. Put the new blanket into the front clamping bar and inch the press forward a little bit. The front edge of the underlay sheet should be just at the edge of the cylinder undercut at the print start. Please be careful when inching the press that the underlay sheet is still parallel underneath the tension blanket. The blanket has to be tensioned after inserting. Please check the correct positioning of the underlay sheet. The blanket needs to be tightened again after a few hundred impressions. Put the forwarding rollers back into their position. Close the guard and lift up the frame. Open the rear guard and remove the water pan. The dampening unit in Printing Unit 2 is a complete unit and can be removed for cleaning and adjustments. At first, you have to remove the two splash guards. They should be cleaned once a week. Detach the control knob for metering the dampening solution. Loosen the screws on the side with the operator tool and swing the swiveling lever down. The whole dampening unit can now be removed. Please make sure that the ink distributor is positioned correctly before reinstalling the dampening unit. Install the dampening unit. Swing the swiveling lever back up and tighten the screws on both sides. Then the control knob for metering the dampening solution is attached again. We will now show you how to remove and install an inking roller. For removing the third inking roller of printing unit 2, for example, you have to push back the journal boxes on both sides. The inking roller can now be removed. Reinstall the roller and lock the journal boxes. For adjusting the rollers, you should put in some ink. Yellow or orange are best suited. Distribute the ink. First of all, you have to set the ink form roller toward the ink distributor. The ink has to be spread evenly. Stop the press and wait a few seconds. Now move the press until you see a stripe of ink. Check the stripe width. This stripe is not wide enough. The stripe width can be adjusted on the operator side and on the drive side. Turning the red screw to the right will make the stripe wider. Distribute the ink again and stop the press. After waiting a few seconds, you can check the stripe width again. If the stripe is 4 mm or 0.16 inches wide, the ink form roller is exactly adjusted toward the distributor. The next step is the adjustment of the dampening form and ink form rollers to the plate. By a special function 01, you can set the dampening form roller on the plate. With special function 02, the ink form rollers are set on the plate. Set dampening and ink form roller on the plate. Wait a few seconds and set the rollers off again. Inch the press forward and check the width of the ink stripe on the plate. The pressure is not high enough and has to be readjusted. Mark the stripes on the plate. The dampening form roller can be adjusted with operator tool at the upper screws. When adjusting the inking rollers, you have to start with the second ink form roller. The required screws are pink and are underneath the ink fountain. The silver screws are for adjusting the third ink form roller to the plate. The first ink form roller is adjusted via the orange adjusting screw above the ink fountain. Turning the screw to the left will make the stripe on the plate wider. Please set the dampening and ink form roller back on the plate. Check whether the stripes are all equally wide. They should be 3 mm or 0.12 inches wide on all rollers. Printmaster QM46 can be equipped with a wide range of extra accessories which may vary from country to country. The powder spray device applies powder to the printed sheet to prevent ink layoff. The glass can be removed for refilling or exchanging the powder. The filling level of powder in the glass should be between the two markings. Please stir the powder from time to time to avoid lumping. The device is turned on via the main switch. The amount of powder can be controlled via turning knobs. Use the larger knob to adjust the total amount of powder. The maximum amount of powder is applied when turning the knob one rotation to the right. The powder ejection can be checked via special function 04. Just put a dark sheet of paper in the delivery and watch the powder spreading. When activating the tape inserter, a paper strip can be inserted in the delivery pile after a pre-selected number of prints. The block size can also be predefined by a special function 31. The unit has to be turned off when exchanging the paper roll. Just take off the cover and replace the roll. After completing a production run, 2 strips are inserted. Processing envelopes with a Heidelberg envelope feeder is very easy. Insert the base plate into both bore holes. The envelope feeder is tightened with a wing screw from underneath the feeder pile board. There are several pile boards for different formats. Move the feed table height control bar all the way down. Place the shoe on the control bar and tighten the screws. Replace the rear sheet stops. The long sheet stops are best suited for envelopes. Put one envelope on the tilting feed table and set the lateral sheet stops. Now you can pile the envelopes in the feeder. Stocks piling up on one side can be aligned individually with the tilting feed table. Set the rear stop to the envelopes, applying a little pressure, and start the press. Please check the adjustment of printing pressure. The Just Feed system by a different manufacturer also makes processing envelopes much easier. Put the adjusting help on the pile board. The small position has to be set to load. Move the lateral stop all the way up. The flap of the envelopes should face the spring-suspended side of the unit. The lateral sheet stops should not be adjusted too tightly. Move the small lever to feed after pre-piling. Start the press. Envelopes piling up on one side are leveled out by the spring system. You can also use this system for delivery. which provides for trouble-free laydown of envelopes. The anti-static device can be used to eliminate static charges. There is one neutralizer bar in the feeder and one in the delivery. The guide rail for the feeder with brush rulers has been designed for processing delicate stock of 0.15 millimeter or 0.006 inches thickness and higher. The suction bar should be moved all the way down. Move the forwarding rollers to the sides and remove the sheet monitoring device. Remove the knurled head screw from the guide plate. It can now be taken out and cleaned. We recommend using the guide rail with brush rollers for stock that scratches easily. This plate is tightened with the knurled head screws. Put the sheet monitoring device back in and move the forwarding rollers back into their position. Now close the guard and lift up the frame. Instead of the guide pulleys, it is also possible to install the Super Blue delivery drum, which is also an extra accessory. We will use this tabletop model to show you how to exchange the Super Blue base cover. The black base cover can be removed from the delivery drum. Position a new Super Blue net in the middle of the base cover. Press it on strongly at the upper end. Use a pair of scissors to cut off the upper corner. The front edge of the Super Blue base cover and the Super Blue net are now attached to the cylinder with the Velcro tape. The rear edge of the Super Blue net should be last to be pressed against the cylinder. You can now define the exact tensioning of the net. The Super Blue net is also tightened on the sides. It is very easy to press the net when using an Allen key. Make sure the net is not fit on the cylinder too tightly. If your QM46 is fitted with a basic equipment for numbering and perforating, you can replace the cylinder jacket. Select Special Function 05 and position the press between 90 and 110 degrees. The rear clamping bar can be loosened with the red screw. The rear edge of the jacket will come out of the clamping bar by itself. Hold on to the jacket and inch the press backward to an angle between 35 and 38 degrees. The 3 front stretching bolts are now accessible and can be loosened with the operator tool. Hold on to the rear edge of the jacket and inch the press to an angle between 178 and 183 degrees. jacket can now be carefully pulled out of the front clamping bar using both hands. Clean the impression cylinder with a rag drenched in wash-up solution. Close all guards. Maximum pressure should be preset when installing the cylinder jacket. Move the circumferential register 10 millimeters or 0.4 inches forward. Then the blanket cylinder can push the front edge of the jacket into the clamping bar. Push the plus button to set the blanket cylinder against the impression cylinder. At an angle between 178 and 183 degrees, the front edge of the jacket with the wider bending edge can be inserted in the clamping bar. The jacket has to be centered laterally. Hold on to the rear edge of the jacket and inch the press to an angle between 35 and 38 degrees. The 3 front stretching bolts can now be tightened again, starting with the screw in the middle. Hold on to the jacket with one hand and inch the press to an angle between 90 and 110 degrees. Push the rear bending in the clamping bar and turn the red screw clockwise until the jacket is tensioned. Stop turning the screw further when hitting the stop. Turn the impression cylinder forward 3 to 5 times with the blanket cylinder set on. Deactivate Special Function 05 to finish the clamping process. Turn the circumferential register and the printing pressure back to their original position. If your Printmaster QM46 features the basic equipment for perforating, you can perforate, crease, and slit. The perforating shaft can be equipped with a maximum of 9 perforating discs, which can be set on and off separately. We will now prepare the perforating shaft for a perforating wheel. The spherical end of the perforating shaft has to be turned to the drive side of the press. Tighten the screws on both sides of the shaft. Run a printed sheet through the press and stop the press. When loosening the stop screw, the perforating wheel can be moved laterally to the required position. Close the guard again and select Special Function 06 for setting up the perforation. The pressure of the perforating wheel is set via the adjusting screw. The pressure is too high if the wheel cannot be turned anymore. The perforating wheel should touch and be turned easily. Turn Special Function 06 off again and deliver the sheet. Perforation is activated with Special Function 18. Run a few test sheets and take one sheet from the delivery. Check the perforation. When pulling just a little, the perforated paper strip should come off completely. Perforation is okay. You can start the production run. The precondition for numbering and imprinting is that the press has been fitted with the basic equipment. The numbering unit of Printmaster QM46 is a very compact unit which can be transported on a service trolley. The numbering shaft has to be equipped with mounting rings. You only need 2 screws to put the different parts together. Now the numbering boxes are installed on the mounting rings and tightened with screws. Measure the required position of the numbers on your print sheet. The measured value has to be adjusted on the outside scale of the numbering unit. The unit is locked with a small brass screw. The caliper gauge is moved above the mounting rings. All numbering boxes are now vertically adjusted and fixed on the mounting rings. Their correct positioning can be checked with the caliper gauge. The vertical position of the numbering box is correct if the caliper gauge is in one line with the lead edge of the digits. The horizontal adjustment of the numbering boxes is done from the center of the sheet. Move the caliper gauge to the required position and align the mounting ring holding the numbering box. The adjustment is correct if the caliper gauge is in one line with the outer line of digits. Tighten the mounting rings. Set the digits of the numbering boxes. Digits that are not needed for the next job can be pressed down and turned off. In our example, the first 4 digits are set to 0. Now you can fill some ink into the prepared ink fountain. Before installing the numbering unit, it has to be set to its 0 position. Turn the unit until you feel it is locked in position. Special Function 66 shows you the press angle. Turn the press to an angle of exactly 228 degrees. Open the guard and remove the drip pan. Roll the numbering unit over to the delivery of your press. Turn the lateral latches in the press. Open the lock with your left thumb and push the numbering unit into the press. The lateral latches are now turned back. Turn the press manually once just to be sure. Start the press. Set on the ink fountain roller and let some ink flow. Special Function 17 starts the numbering unit. Print a few sheets and check the position of the numbers. Remove the numbering unit from the press and make the necessary corrections. The cams can be installed if the numbering boxes are in their correct position. The distance between numbering box and cam has to be exactly right. A distance piece will help check the distance precisely. Turn the numbering unit into the 0 position and set the press to an angle of exactly 228 degrees. Move the numbering unit back into the press. Slowly inch the press forward for one complete rotation. The numbering boxes will not switch if you turn on the waste sheet counter. Now you should check the printed sheets again. The numbering unit is equipped with an inking unit and a blade-type ink fountain. The ink fountain roller lever is on the far right side. With the operator tool, the ink ductor is set on in the lower position and set off in the upper position. The ink zone settings are done through the holes of the guard. The lever for setting ink stripe width is on the left side. The pressure is set at both openings at the bottom. Now you can turn off the waste sheet counter and start the production run. Install the wash-up blades for cleaning the unit. Wash-up solution can be applied on the rollers with the splashing help. Carefully put some wash-up solution on the splashing help. The numbering unit is removed from the press after finishing the wash-up procedure. With this numbering unit, you can also run imprinting jobs. Remove one numbering box. You can put the image to be imprinted on a printing block holder with double-sided adhesive tape. Install the printing block holder on a mounting ring and tighten it with a screw. Now you have seen how versatile and productive Printmaster QM46 is. We hope you have received some helpful hints and information and would like to wish you the best of success with your Printmaster QM46. For further information, please see the operating manual or contact your local Heidelberg agency. Enjoy working with your Printmaster QM46. Goodbye.